So I recently saw the movie Project Hail Mary, as did you, I assume because you clicked on this video, and I loved it. As a prop maker, there were quite a few things that stood out to me in the movie, but the one I wanted to recreate the most was Rocky's little Grace figurine he makes out of Xenonite. I was resolved to sort of just shelve the idea, as I didn't have time to painstakingly recreate the intricate line work of the prop, until I found out that the official website for the movie has a link to download a keychain replica to print. So I immediately jumped online and grabbed the STL and booted up my slicer. So I've seen that a lot of people have been printing these out on their FDM printer, but I wanted to maintain the detail of the original piece, so I decided to do mine in the resin. The model they give you is pre-supported, is great, but the supports were also inside the figure, which would be impossible to get out without destroying the piece. So not to mention a little bit inaccurate. I think since it was meant to be a keychain, the internal supports were there to kind of give it structure and strength, which is great if that's what you're going to use it for, but I knew I was going to use mine as simply just a desk trinket, so it didn't necessarily need to be the strongest thing. So that's why I decided to upload it to my slicer, and I wanted to hollow it out. So I used the pre-generated auto support system that my lychee slicer has, and over the next few minutes, I painstakingly removed every single support within the model. Now, I also made sure I oriented it in a way that it would require minimal to no internal supports. Now, surprisingly, it worked out pretty well. The only problem that I ran into, I didn't check out the pre-generated auto supports on the outside, and that's on me. I should have, so the left arm of the figure is a little bit wonky. But like I said, this was supposed to just be like a quick little weekend project that was just going to end up sitting on my desk as a little trinket, so I wasn't too concerned about it. So next, I sent the model to my printer. I used the ABS-like resin. It was gray, which I am new to, and so far I'm enjoying. After a couple hours, the print was finished, and I began the cleaning process. Remember, always wear gloves and a mask and work in a well-ventilated area. This stuff is not good to breathe in and not good to get on your skin. So after all that, I had half expected the model to be pretty fragile, but surprisingly, it was pretty strong. I guess that's the ABS resin, that's what it does, which is great. I really enjoyed working with this. I think that it maintained a high level of detail that I needed, as well as not breaking immediately as soon as I took it off the build plate. So next, I tossed it in an IPA isopropyl alcohol bath. I stirred it in there for a minute or so before tossing it on the merry-go-round of UV radiation. So I nuked it and a couple other things I printed off at the same time for a few minutes, rotating the models every 30 seconds or so in order to get every side cured. After a little while, the model was ready. I took it back to the workbench. The original prop in the movie is a slight metallic color, which in some shots looks like a dull silver and others looks like it has a slight gold undertone to it. Either way, I decided to go with the reference image I could find online, which was more silver in tone, though a bit dull. So what I did is I made sure that I primed the piece, making sure that every single nook and cranny was covered in a nice black coat before starting the metallic coats. Now, I did not want this to be a super metallic shiny figure, as it really isn't in the movie. It seems that whatever, metal this Xenonite is supposed to be, it's not supposed to be like a super chrome finish. So I started going through all my paints, and I have a bunch of all-clad ones, but I didn't really want to use my all-clads on this project specifically. I didn't want to use my all-clad paints because those tend to work best if they are on top of a gloss base coat, and if this is going to be dull, then there's really not a point to waste the nice, expensive all-clads on a project that doesn't really require it. So I started rummaging through all my paints, and I found a bottle of Speedball Silver ink. Now, I've used alcohol silver inks before in my airbrush, and I do like using them. The only downside, it does take a little bit extra time to actually clean the airbrush after you finish working with the alcohol. But other than that, it turned out great. I did a test coat on part of it just to make sure and see if it would look good. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be a super bright silver, as the prop itself wasn't, like I said, a metallic bright silver. In the end, I ended up doing a little bit too much paint on it. It ended up being a bit brighter than I wanted to, but I also knew that the next step, which was going to be a satin varnish, would knock down quite a bit of that, and I was correct. So after I finished painting it with the Speedball ink, I let it dry, I set it aside, and then I got out my satin varnish. I sprayed a little bit of satin varnish on there to make sure it would look good, covered the whole thing, waited for that to dry, and it turned out exactly how I wanted it to. You can definitely tell that it is metallic, but it is also more of a dull silver gray, which is the exact style I was going for, which is great. Sometimes you gotta experiment with some stuff. I had never done a paint job like this specifically, and even though this is a simple paint job, it's simply just a black coat with a silver on top and a satin varnish, I was still new to it, and it was still fun to experiment and try some new stuff. always adding stuff to my repertoire of painting experience is always good, even if it is such a simple thing like this. I really enjoyed making this. I saw the Project Hail Mary with my friends and I was blown away. Not only was it well acted, shout out to Ryan Gosling for acting across a rock puppet, but the movie was also incredibly beautiful. The visuals will no doubt go up there with the likes of Interstellar and many other sci-fi classics. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me make this little Grace model as much as I liked making it. If you want to make one for yourself, you can go to the movie's official website and download the file yourself. I believe they also now have a 3D file for a posable Rocky statue as well, which, hey, I might have to make in the future as well. That's all for this video. I hope you really enjoyed, and remember, you don't need to be perfect, you just need to be.